My name is Olivia Matthews, and I'm 32 years old. I never expected to be hiding in my car, watching my entitled sister Madison throw a tantrum on a stranger's front lawn. But there she was, waving my old house keys, screaming at the confused new owners while my parents tried to calm her down. The family drama that had simmered for years had finally boiled over, and the revenge I never planned was sweeter than I could have imagined. Before I dive into this wild story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy family drama with a side of sweet justice. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to see how my sister's house-crashing plans completely backfired. Growing up in the Matthews household meant accepting one unchangeable fact: my younger sister Madison was the golden child. 3 years my junior, Madison possessed the kind of effortless charm and beauty that made people gravitate toward her. Our parents, especially our father Richard, were completely enchanted by her from day one. While I worked diligently through high school, maintaining a 4.0 GPA and participating in every extracurricular activity that might boost my college applications, Madison breezed through with average grades and maximum adoration. "Olivia, why can't you be more like your sister?" became my mother's constant refrain. "Madison knows how to enjoy life. You're too serious." The comparison stung, particularly because I was the one helping Madison with her homework, covering for her missed curfews, and generally being the responsible sibling our parents seemed to overlook. When college acceptance letters arrived, I received a partial scholarship to UCLA, but it wasn't enough to cover all expenses. I approached my parents, hoping they would help with the remainder as they had always promised. "We're really tight right now, honey," my father explained, not quite believing my eyes. "We've been putting money aside for both of you girls, but with the economy the way it is, you might need to consider community college first." I was devastated, but accepted their financial limitations. I worked 2 jobs while attending community college for 2 years before transferring to UCLA. The day I moved into my tiny off-campus apartment, which I could barely afford even with roommates, Madison called excitedly. "Guess what, Liv? I got accepted to NYU. Mom and Dad are buying me an apartment in Manhattan, so I don't have to deal with dorms." Isn't that amazing? The revelation hit me like a physical blow. They had money for Madison, enough for an apartment in one of the most expensive cities in the country, but not enough to help me with tuition. When I confronted my parents, they were defensive. "Madison needs more support," my mother insisted. "She's not as independent as you are, Olivia. You've always been able to figure things out on your own." That conversation marked the beginning of my emotional detachment from my family. I stopped sharing my struggles and achievements with them. When I graduated with honors and landed a job at a prestigious marketing firm in Los Angeles, they attended the ceremony but spent most of the day talking about Madison's latest adventures in New York. Over the next decade, I built my career methodically, climbing the corporate ladder while living frugally and investing wisely. I bought my first house at 28, a modest but charming bungalow in a developing neighborhood of Los Angeles. I invited my parents for the housewarming, but they canceled at the last minute because Madison had surprised them with a visit. "You understand, don't you, sweetie?" my mother said over the phone. "Madison's visits are so rare now that she's so busy with her social life in New York. We'll come see your house another time." That another time took almost a year to materialize. When they finally visited, they seemed unimpressed by my achievement. "It's cute," my father said, looking around with a slight frown. "A bit small though, isn't it? And this neighborhood seems transitional." What they didn't know was that I had researched the area extensively before purchasing. The neighborhood was on the cusp of a major revitalization, with new businesses moving in and property values already beginning to rise. But explaining my investment strategy to them seemed pointless. They had already decided that Madison's rented luxury apartment in Manhattan was superior to my owned property. Meanwhile, Madison's life took a different trajectory. After graduating with a degree in fashion marketing, she bounced between jobs, never staying anywhere longer than a year. Her social media portrayed a glamorous existence, but occasional late-night calls revealed the truth. She was drowning in debt, funded largely by our parents' continuous financial support. They don't even ask questions anymore, she confided during one of our rare honest conversations. Dad just transfers money whenever I tell him I'm short on rent. It's like they're afraid I'll move back home if they don't. I listened without comment, swallowing the bitterness that threatened to surface. While Madison received no-strings-attached financial bailouts, I hadn't asked my parents for a dime since that initial college rejection. My independence was both a point of pride and a painful reminder of the disparity in how we were treated. The real turning point came when my company offered me a significant promotion, one that would require relocating to our San Francisco office. The salary increase and career opportunity were too good to pass up. Additionally, the real estate market in my neighborhood had exploded just as I'd predicted, and my house was now worth nearly double what I had paid for it. I listed the property without telling my family, wanting to avoid their unsolicited opinions or, worse, their dismissal of my success. Within days, I had multiple offers well above asking price. As I signed the closing documents, I felt a strange mixture of pride and melancholy, pride in my financial acumen, melancholy that I had no one with whom to truly share this milestone. I planned to tell my parents about the move after everything was finalized. I would be staying in a corporate apartment in San Francisco for the first month while I looked for a permanent place. The timing seemed perfect, clean break, fresh start, new chapter. What I didn't anticipate was how dramatically my family would insert themselves into this transition, catalyzing a confrontation that had been brewing for decades. The call that set everything in motion came on a Sunday evening, just 2 days after I'd handed over the keys to my house to the new owners, a lovely young couple expecting their first child. I was in the middle of packing my remaining belongings into labeled boxes when my phone lit up with my mother's name. Olivia. Dear, I have wonderful news, she gushed before I could even say hello. Your sister is moving to Los Angeles. Isn't that exciting? You two will finally be in the same city again. I paused, a roll of packing tape suspended in midair. Madison is moving to LA? Since when? Last I heard, she was determined to make it in New York. My mother's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. Well, between us, things haven't been going so well for her there. The cost of living is ridiculous, and she's been struggling to find stable work in fashion. Your father, and I think a fresh start would be good for her. Translation: Madison had finally maxed out her New York adventure and needed yet another bailout. I bit back the sarcastic comment that sprang to my lips and instead asked, does she have a job lined up here? An apartment. That's actually why I'm calling, my mother continued, her tone shifting to that cajoling quality I recognized from childhood, the one that preceded an unwelcome request. Madison has an interview with a boutique PR firm next week, but she needs a place to stay while she gets settled. We thought perhaps she could stay with you for a little while. The audacity was breathtaking. No preliminary discussion, no asking if I would be willing, just an assumption that I would rearrange my life to accommodate Madison. Again. Mom, that's not possible, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I'm in the middle of a major life change myself. I've accepted a promotion in San Francisco. I'm moving at the end of the week. Silence greeted this announcement, followed by, You're moving? Why didn't you tell us? I'm telling you now, I replied, unable to keep a hint of edge from my voice. Just like you're telling me about Madison's plans now. But what about your house? Surely you're not selling it? Real estate is such a good investment, Olivia. I took a deep breath. I've already sold it. The new owners moved in 2 days ago. Another lengthy silence. Then, this is very sudden. Very impulsive. Not like you at all, Olivia. The implication that my carefully planned career move was an impulsive decision stung. It's not sudden for me, Mom. I've been working toward this promotion for over a year. The opportunity came, and I took it. Well, this complicates things, she said, her disapproval evident. Madison was counting on staying with you. We all were. I'm sorry about that, but Madison will need to make other arrangements. I tried to soften my tone. There are plenty of extended stay hotels or short-term rentals she could consider. My mother sighed dramatically. You know your sister doesn't have that kind of money right now. She's in transition. I understand that, But so am I countered, feeling my patience wearing thin. I've worked hard for this opportunity, and I can't put my career on hold. No one is asking you to put your career on hold, she said, her voice taking on that martyred quality I knew so well. But family should come first, don't you think? Your sister needs help. It was the same old pattern, Madison's needs superseding mine, my achievements diminished, my boundaries ignored. Something inside me snapped. When I needed help with college, family didn't come first, I said quietly. When I bought my house and you canceled my housewarming, family didn't come first. I've built my life without expecting anything from any of you, and I'm not going to apologize for continuing to do so. That's unfair, Olivia, my mother protested. We've always supported both our daughters equally. You've just always been more self-sufficient. The gaslighting was so familiar it almost made me laugh. Mom, I became self-sufficient because I had to be. That wasn't a personality trait I was born with. I don't think this is a productive conversation, she said stiffly. You're clearly upset. We can discuss this later when you're thinking more clearly. Before I could respond, she added, your father and I will figure something out for Madison. Don't worry yourself about it, and hung up. I stared at my phone, a mixture of anger and vindication washing over me. For once, I had stood my ground instead of accommodating my family's expectations. It felt both liberating and terrifying. What I didn't realize then was that my mother had no intention of accepting my boundaries. In the Matthews family playbook, Olivia always yielded to Madison's needs, and my parents were about to take matters into their own hands in a way I never could have anticipated. The next morning, I received a text from Madison, so excited to crash at your place next week. Mom said you're going to be out of town anyway, so it works out perfectly. Party popper, thanks sis, you're the best. Red heart. I stared at the message in disbelief. After explicitly stating that Madison could not stay at my house, a house I no longer owned, my mother had told her the exact opposite. I called Madison immediately. Hey, there's been a misunderstanding, I said when she answered. I'm not going to be out of town. I'm moving to San Francisco. Permanently. And I've already sold my house. Wait, what? Madison's voice rose an octave. But Mom said. Whatever Mom said was wrong, I interrupted firmly. I told her yesterday that I've sold my house and I'm moving for a new job. The new owners already live there. But where am I supposed to stay? She asked, her voice taking on that plaintive quality that had worked so well on our parents. I can't afford a hotel, Liv. I've already given notice on my New York apartment. I'm sorry about that, I said, meaning it despite my frustration. But you need to talk to Mom and Dad about alternative arrangements. My house is no longer an option. Madison's tone changed instantly from pleading to accusatory. You know, you could have given me some notice if you were planning to move. It's really selfish to just spring this on everyone. The irony was staggering. Selfish? Madison, you didn't give me any notice about your plans to move to LA and stay in my house. You just assumed I'd accommodate you, as always. That's different, she insisted. You know I'm in a tight spot right now. And I'm in the middle of a major life transition, I countered. One that I've worked incredibly hard for. Whatever, Olivia. Some sister you are. She hung up. I should have known this wouldn't be the end of it. I should have anticipated that my family would refuse to accept my boundaries or believe that I was actually prioritizing myself for once. But even with that knowledge, I could never have predicted what would happen next. The following days passed in a whirlwind of packing, paperwork, and preparations for my move to San Francisco. I had arranged for a moving company to transport my belongings on Friday, while I would drive up on Saturday morning. My last day at the Los Angeles office was Thursday, and my colleagues had organized a small farewell gathering after work. I was just about to leave for this event when my phone pinged with a message from an unfamiliar number. When I opened it, I felt my stomach drop. Hi Olivia, this is Ben Carson, the new owner of your former house. I just wanted to let you know that an older couple stopped by today claiming to be your parents. They said they needed to drop something off for you and seemed surprised when I told them you no longer lived here. I didn't give them any information, but thought you should know. I thanked him for the heads up and promised there wouldn't be any further disturbances. My parents had actually gone to my old house? Without calling me first? The implications were disturbing. I tried calling both my parents immediately, but neither answered. I left messages asking them to call me back urgently, then texted them as well. I know you went to my old house today. The new owners contacted me. Please call me ASAP. Hours passed with no response. The silent treatment was a familiar tactic. My parents often withdrew communication when they were displeased with me, a punishment that had been effective in my childhood, but now just seemed manipulative and childish. My farewell party was bittersweet. I was genuinely excited about my new position and the opportunities awaiting me in San Francisco, but the situation with my family cast a shadow over my celebration. Several times throughout the evening, I checked my phone, hoping for a response from my parents, but there was nothing. It wasn't until I returned to my nearly empty apartment around 11 p.m. that my father finally called back. "Olivia," he began without preamble, "I'm very disappointed in how you're handling this situation." I was too tired and frustrated for preamble. "Dad, why did you and Mom go to my old house today?" I told Mom I sold it. "Your mother, and I had a hard time believing you would make such an important decision without consulting us," he replied, his tone maddeningly patronizing. "We thought perhaps there was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I repeated incredulously. "I explicitly told Mom that I sold the house and am moving to San Francisco." "What part of that was unclear?" "The part where you failed to consider your sister's needs," he shot back. "Madison is in a vulnerable position right now. She needs family support." "And I support her emotionally," I said, struggling to maintain my composure. "But I can't offer her a place to stay in a house I no longer own." "This isn't like you, Olivia," my father continued as if I hadn't spoken. "You've always been the responsible one, the one we could count on. Your sister looks up to you, you know." The manipulation was so transparent it was almost comical. "Dad, I am being responsible to myself and my career. And if Madison looks up to me, maybe she should try following my example of self-sufficiency instead of expecting bailouts." "That's a very cold attitude," he said, his voice hardening. "Family takes care of family." "Yes, family should take care of family," I agreed. "But in our family, it's always been a one-way street. I'm expected to accommodate Madison, but when have any of you ever accommodated me?" "That's not fair, Olivia. We've supported both our daughters equally. Madison just needs more help sometimes." It was the same gaslighting my mother had attempted, and I was done with it. "Dad, I'm moving to San Francisco on Saturday. The movers are coming tomorrow. My house has been sold. These are facts, not up for debate. Madison cannot stay there." "We'll see about that," he muttered, and hung up. His parting words left me with a sense of foreboding. What exactly did he mean by, "we'll see about that"? Surely my parents wouldn't continue to push after I'd been so clear? But the next morning, as the movers were loading the last of my furniture into their truck, I received another text from Ben Carson. "Your parents came by again, this time with a young woman they said was your sister. They seemed quite insistent about needing access to the house. My wife told them we'd purchased the property and you'd moved, but they didn't seem to believe her. Just wanted to let you know in case they contact you. No pressure, but if you could clarify the situation with them, we'd appreciate it." I felt a surge of both anger and embarrassment. What were my parents thinking? I called my father immediately, but again, no answer. Same with my mother. I left increasingly frustrated voicemails for both of them. Finally, around noon, my mother called back. "Mom, what are you doing?" I demanded without preamble. "The Carsons have contacted me twice now about you showing up at their house. This has to stop." "Olivia, I don't appreciate your tone," she began, but I cut her off. "And I don't appreciate you harassing the people who bought my house. I told you I sold it. Why would you think it was okay to keep showing up there?" "We thought you were just saying that to avoid helping your sister," my mother admitted, her voice small. "You've been so different lately. So focused on your career and yourself." The revelation stunned me into momentary silence. They had thought I was lying about selling my house? That I would make up such an elaborate story just to avoid helping Madison? "Mom, when have I ever lied to you about something important?" I asked quietly. "Never," she admitted after a pause. "But people change, Olivia. And you've been so distant lately." I've been distant because every interaction with this family makes me feel diminished, I said, surprising myself with my candor. Every achievement of mine is minimized while Madison's every move is celebrated. Every boundary I set is treated as selfishness, while Madison's demands are treated as needs. Can you understand how exhausting that is? My mother was silent for so long I thought she might have hung up. Finally, she said, I never realized you felt that way. Because you never asked, I replied simply. Look, Mom, I need you to understand something very clearly. I have sold my house. The people living there now, the Carsons, are the legal owners. If you continue to bother them, they could potentially file harassment charges. Please stop going there. All right, she sighed. But Olivia, we still need to figure out a solution for Madison. She arrives in Los Angeles on Monday and has nowhere to stay. I bit back my instinctive response that Madison's lack of planning did not constitute my emergency, and instead said she could stay in a hotel until she finds an apartment. Or perhaps you and Dad could help her with a short-term rental. Hotels in LA are so expensive, my mother lamented. And your father and I are trying to be more careful with our finances these days. Translation: they'd spent so much bailing out Madison over the years that they were now feeling the pinch. Then Madison might need to reconsider whether this move is financially feasible right now, I suggested. But she's already given notice on her New York apartment. She can't back out now. I took a deep breath. Mom, I sympathize with Madison's situation, but I can't solve this problem for her. I'm literally in the middle of my own move. I understand, my mother said, though her tone suggested otherwise. We'll figure something out. We ended the call on that ambiguous note, and I tried to refocus on my own transition. The movers had finished loading everything, and I spent my last night in Los Angeles in an empty apartment with just an air mattress, a suitcase of clothes, and my growing sense of unease about what my family might do next. Little did I know, they were already hatching a plan that would lead to one of the most surreal confrontations of my life. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for a drive up the coast to San Francisco. I was just loading the last of my belongings into my car when my phone rang. It was Ben Carson again. Olivia, I hate to bother you, but your family is here again, he said, his voice a mixture of concern and irritation. This time they have keys. They're insisting they have permission to enter the house. My blood ran cold. They have keys? That's impossible. I gave you all the copies when we closed. They're claiming you gave them a spare set for emergencies, Ben explained. My wife is on the verge of calling the police. Please don't do that yet, I begged, my mind racing. I'm so sorry about this. I'll handle it right away. I had a sickening realization. The spare keys I'd hidden in a fake rock in the backyard for emergencies. I'd completely forgotten about them when I moved out. My parents must have known about them, perhaps I'd mentioned it during their brief visit to the house last year. I'll be there in 20 minutes, I promised Ben, already heading to my car. The drive to my former home was a blur of anger and disbelief. How could my parents do this? What were they thinking? And where had they gotten the idea that they could just move Madison into a house that wasn't mine anymore? As I turned onto my old street, I could see the commotion from a block away. My parents' SUV was parked in the driveway, trunk open, revealing several suitcases. Madison stood on the front lawn, gesticulating wildly as she argued with a woman I recognized as Sarah Carson. My father was attempting to insert a key into the front door while Ben Carson blocked his access. I parked across the street and sat for a moment, watching the scene unfold. It was so outrageous, so beyond normal family dysfunction, that I almost couldn't process it. Part of me wanted to drive away and pretend these people weren't related to me. But I couldn't leave the Carsons to deal with this alone. Taking a deep breath, I got out of my car and approached the chaotic tableau. Dad, stop what you're doing right now, I called out firmly. Everyone turned to look at me. Relief washed over Ben and Sarah's faces, while my father's expression hardened, and my mother's crumpled into something between embarrassment and defiance. Madison just looked annoyed, as if I was the one causing the problem. Olivia, thank goodness, my mother exclaimed. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. These people claim they own your house. They do own it, Mom, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. I sold it to them 2 weeks ago, and they are the legal owners now. You need to leave immediately. But you gave us keys, my father sputtered, holding up the spare set I'd hidden in the fake rock. I forgot about that spare set, I admitted. But having keys doesn't give you the right to enter someone else's property. What you're attempting to do right now is breaking and entering, Dad. It's a crime. Don't be so dramatic, Olivia, Madison cut in, rolling her eyes. They're just helping me move in. Mom said you were fine with me staying here while you're in San Francisco. I was never fine with it, and I told Mom that repeatedly, I replied, trying to keep my voice level. But more importantly, this isn't my house anymore. I couldn't give permission even if I wanted to. You're seriously going to leave me homeless? Madison demanded, her voice rising. After everything I've done for you. The absurdity of her claim momentarily stunned me into silence. What exactly had Madison ever done for me? I'm not leaving you homeless, Madison. I'm simply not able to provide you with housing. There's a difference. Same thing. You know I can't afford a place right now. That's not Olivia's fault, Sarah Carson interjected quietly, causing everyone to look at her in surprise. I'm sorry about your situation, but this is our home now. We have a baby on the way, and we've already started renovations. Madison's face contorted with self-righteous anger. So, what am I supposed to do? Sleep on the street? You could have planned ahead, I suggested. Or accepted reality when I told you multiple times that staying at my house wasn't an option. Girls, let's calm down, my mother intervened, using the same placating tone she'd employed throughout our childhood, usually right before explaining why Madison's needs trumped mine. There must be a solution here that works for everyone. There is, I said firmly. You all leave the Carsons' property immediately and figure out alternative accommodations for Madison, just like any other adult would have to do. This isn't like you, Olivia, my father said, shaking his head in disapproval. You've always been the responsible one, the one who takes care of others. I am being responsible, to myself and to the legal homeowners who are being harassed by my family, I replied. And I'm tired of being the responsible one being code for the one who sacrifices for Madison. How dare you, my mother gasped. We've never played favorites. The laughter that escaped me was genuine, but tinged with bitterness. Mom, you paid for Madison's apartment in New York while telling me you couldn't help with my college tuition. You've bailed her out of financial trouble repeatedly while expecting me to be entirely self-sufficient. You canceled my housewarming party to see Madison, but expect me to drop everything whenever she needs something. If that's not playing favorites, I don't know what is. An uncomfortable silence fell over the group. The Carsons looked like they wished they could disappear, while my parents exchanged guilty glances. Only Madison seemed unmoved, her arms crossed defiantly. Look, I continued, softening my tone slightly, I understand that you're in a difficult situation, Madison. But showing up at a house that isn't mine, with suitcases and an expectation to move in, isn't a solution. It's an imposition on strangers who have done nothing wrong. But where am I supposed to go? She demanded again, her voice cracking slightly. For the first time, I saw past her anger to the fear beneath it. Madison had always been sheltered from consequences, always rescued before having to face the results of her choices. This was perhaps the first time she was confronting the reality that her safety net might not catch her. I felt a twinge of sympathy but remained firm. There are hotels, Airbnbs, extended stay places. Or you could postpone your move until you have secured housing. We were counting on your help, Olivia, my father said, his voice heavy with disappointment. Family should help family. I agree, I said, meeting his gaze steadily. Which is why I'm surprised you didn't offer to help Madison find a place to stay when I told you explicitly that my house was no longer an option. Another uncomfortable silence descended. I turned to the Carsons, who had been watching this family drama unfold on their front lawn with understandable discomfort. I'm so sorry for this intrusion, I said sincerely. I had no idea my family would go to these lengths. It's not your fault, Ben said awkwardly. Could we have the keys back, please? Sarah asked my father, extending her hand. My father hesitated, then reluctantly placed the keys in her palm. We thought Olivia was just being difficult, he muttered by way of explanation. So what now? Madison demanded, her voice thick with unshed tears. My flight back to New York leaves in 2 days, and I've already given notice on my apartment there. This was the moment where I would typically step in to solve Madison's problems. It was the role I'd been cast in since childhood, the responsible one, the fixer, the safety net. But for once, I resisted the urge. "That's something you and Mom and Dad need to figure out," I said gently but firmly. "I have to leave for San Francisco now if I want to reach my new apartment before dark." "You're just going to leave?" my mother asked incredulously. "Yes, Mom, I am. I have my own life to live, my own path to follow. And I think it's long past time that Madison learned to do the same." I turned to go, but Madison's voice stopped me. "Wait," she said, her anger seemingly deflated. "Is there really no way I can stay with you in San Francisco? Just until I figure things out?" The vulnerability in her question caught me off guard. For a moment, I saw not the entitled sister who had always gotten her way, but the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms because she was afraid. If you're still with me on this wild family drama, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? How did it go? Hit that like button if you're Team Olivia, and don't worry, the story gets even more intense from here. I promise you won't want to miss what happens next. "I'm sorry, Madison, but that's not possible," I said, softening my tone but not my resolve. "My new place is a small one-bedroom corporate apartment. There's literally no space for you." Madison's face fell, and for once, she didn't immediately launch into accusations or demands. Instead, she looked genuinely lost, an expression I'd rarely seen on my confident, always entitled sister. "I don't understand why this is happening," she said quietly. "Everything was going fine in New York until..." She trailed off, looking away. My curiosity piqued. "Until what, Madison?" My parents exchanged worried glances, and my father stepped forward. "This isn't the time or place for this discussion," he said firmly. "Then, Sarah, we apologize for the confusion. We'll be on our way now." The abrupt change in his demeanor was suspicious. My father, who moments ago had been attempting to break into a stranger's home, was now eager to leave. Something didn't add up. "No, I want to hear what Madison was going to say," I insisted, turning back to my sister. "What happened in New York, Madison?" Madison shot a nervous glance at our parents, then looked back at me. For the first time in our adult lives, I saw my sister stripped of her usual confidence and bravado. She looked small and scared. "I lost my job," she admitted. 6 months ago." 6 months? I repeated, shocked. "You've been unemployed for 6 months? But you were just telling me last month about your promotion and how busy you were with new clients." Madison's cheeks flushed with shame. I lied. "I didn't want you to know that I'd been fired." "Fired? Not laid off." The distinction seemed important. Madison looked at the ground. "Fired. For expense account irregularities." She made a small mistake, my mother interjected defensively. "Anyone could have done the same." "What kind of irregularities?" I pressed, ignoring my mother's attempt to minimize the situation. Madison bit her lip. "I may have used the company credit card for some personal expenses. Just temporarily," she added quickly. "I was going to pay it all back." "How much, Madison?" I asked quietly. $30,000, my father answered when Madison remained silent. "But it was all a misunderstanding. Your sister would never intentionally steal." The amount stunned me. $30,000 wasn't a small mistake or a case of accidentally charging lunch to the company card. This was serious, deliberate fraud. "Did they press charges?" I asked, my mind racing with implications. "No," Madison said quickly. "My boss was understanding. We worked out a repayment plan. But obviously, I lost my job. And let me guess, Mom and Dad are making the payments." Madison had the grace to look embarrassed. They insisted on helping. I turned to my parents. "So you've been paying Madison's restitution for fraud, supporting her financially while she's been unemployed for 6 months, and now you're helping her relocate across the country, all while telling me you're trying to be more careful with your finances." My parents looked uncomfortable but defensive. "Your sister made a mistake, Olivia," my mother said. "She needed our help." "And what about the apartment in Manhattan?" I asked, pieces starting to fall into place. "The one you bought for her? Did you sell it to cover her debt?" More uncomfortable glances between my parents. We never actually bought an apartment, my father admitted reluctantly. We've been paying Madison's rent all these years. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. The apartment they had supposedly bought for Madison, the justification for not helping me with college, the symbol of their favoritism, had never existed. They'd been paying her rent all along while letting me believe they had purchased property for her. I don't understand, I said, struggling to process this new information. Why lie about buying her an apartment? My father looked deeply uncomfortable. We didn't want you to feel bad that we were helping her financially, but not you. So instead, you made me believe you had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on Madison while telling me you couldn't afford to help me with tuition? How is that better? The hurt in my voice was palpable. We always knew you'd be fine, Olivia, my mother said, as if this explained everything. You were always so capable, so independent. Madison needed more support. I became independent because I had no choice, I replied, my voice quiet but intense. I needed support too, Mom. I just learned not to ask for it because the answer was always no. For the first time, I saw something like genuine realization dawn in my mother's eyes. She opened her mouth to respond, but was interrupted by Madison. Can we please focus on my current problem? She demanded, her moment of vulnerability already fading. I still don't have a place to stay. And just like that, we were back to the familiar pattern, Madison's needs taking center stage, my feelings relegated to the background. But this time, I refused to play along. No, Madison, we're not changing the subject, I said firmly. This conversation is long overdue. I've spent my entire life believing that our parents simply favored you, but now I'm discovering that they actively lied to me to justify their unequal treatment. That matters. Oh, poor Olivia, Madison sneered, her vulnerability transforming into the defensive aggression I knew so well. Always the victim, always keeping score. So, what if they helped me more? I needed it. And that's fine, I replied, maintaining my composure. I don't begrudge you getting help when you need it. What I resent is being lied to, being made to feel selfish for wanting equal consideration, and now being expected to bail you out of yet another crisis of your own making. Girls, please, my father interjected. This isn't helping anything. Actually, I think it is, I countered. For the first time, we're being honest about the dynamics in this family. That seems pretty helpful to me. The Carsons, who had been silent witnesses to this family drama, cleared their throats awkwardly. We're going to go inside now, Ben said diplomatically. Please, resolve this elsewhere. His gentle but firm reminder that we were airing our family's dirty laundry on their front lawn brought me back to reality. You're right, I'm sorry, I said to them, genuinely embarrassed. We'll go. We're not going anywhere until we figure out where Madison is going to stay, my father insisted. Yes, you are, I said, my patience finally exhausted. You're going to leave these nice people alone and figure out Madison's housing situation without involving innocent bystanders or trying to break into their home. I turned to Madison directly. If you genuinely need a place to stay for a night or two, there's a Holiday Inn about 3 miles from here. It's not fancy, but it's clean and affordable. I can't afford even one night at a hotel, Madison protested. I'm broke, Olivia. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Then perhaps Mom and Dad can help you, just as they've been doing for years, I suggested, unable to keep a hint of bitterness from my voice. Or maybe it's time to reconsider whether moving to Los Angeles is the right decision right now. Madison looked at me with genuine hurt in her eyes. I thought you'd be happy to have me closer. Where sisters live. Doesn't that mean anything to you? The manipulation was so familiar, the guilt trip, the appeal to family ties, the implication that if I truly loved her, I would sacrifice my own needs and boundaries. In the past, it had always worked. This time, I saw it clearly for what it was. Being sisters means I love you, Madison, I said gently. It doesn't mean I'm responsible for housing you, especially not in a house I no longer own. It doesn't mean I should drop everything and rearrange my life whenever you're in crisis. And it certainly doesn't mean I should allow you to manipulate me with guilt. My words hung in the air between us. For a moment, no one spoke. I think, my mother finally said, her voice trembling slightly, that we should go to that Holiday Inn you mentioned, just for tonight. while we figure things out. It was possibly the first time in my memory that my mother had sided with my perspective over Madison's. The significance wasn't lost on any of us. Madison stared at our mother in shock. "You can't be serious. You're taking her side." "I'm not taking sides," my mother said wearily. "I'm acknowledging reality. This isn't Olivia's house anymore. We can't stay here." Madison's face crumpled, and she burst into tears, not the calculated tears I'd seen her use to get her way countless times, but genuine, frightened sobs. "I don't know what I'm doing," she admitted between gulps of air. "Everything's falling apart, and I thought if I could just get to LA, be closer to family, start fresh, but I've messed everything up again." Despite everything, my heart went out to her. Madison had been enabled and coddled her entire life, never forced to develop resilience or coping skills. In many ways, our parents' favoritism had harmed her as much as it had hurt me, just in different ways. "You haven't messed everything up," I said, softening my tone. "You've hit a rough patch, and you're trying to find a way forward. That's actually pretty brave." Madison looked up, surprised by my shift in tone. "You think so?" "Yes, I do. Moving across the country for a fresh start takes courage. But part of adulting is making viable plans, including having housing lined up before you arrive." "I thought I did have housing lined up," she said pointedly. "Right here." Despite being told repeatedly that it wasn't an option, I reminded her gently. "I didn't believe you'd actually sold your house," she admitted. "I thought you were just being difficult because you were mad at Mom and Dad." The honesty was refreshing, even if the assumption was irritating. "I don't make life decisions to spite people, Madison. I sold my house because I got an amazing job opportunity in San Francisco." For the first time, Madison seemed to actually hear me. "Is it really a good opportunity? What's the job?" "Marketing director for their West Coast division," I replied, unable to keep a note of pride from my voice. "It's a significant step up in both responsibility and compensation." That's actually really impressive, Liv," Madison said, sounding genuinely admiring. "Congratulations." Her simple acknowledgement of my achievement felt surprisingly good. When was the last time anyone in my family had expressed pride in my accomplishments without immediately pivoting to Madison's needs? "Thank you," I said, a little awkwardly. "And I do hope your job interview here goes well. You're good at PR when you apply yourself." It was a small olive branch, but a sincere one. Madison might be entitled and irresponsible, but she wasn't without talents. "So what now?" my father asked, looking between us, as if unsure how to navigate this new, more honest terrain. "Now," I said firmly but not unkindly, "you all get back in the car, go to the Holiday Inn, and figure out a plan that doesn't involve my non-existent spare bedroom. And I drive to San Francisco to start my new life." My mother stepped forward and, to my surprise, pulled me into a hug. "I'm sorry, Olivia," she whispered. "I never realized how much we've hurt you." The simple acknowledgement brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "Thank you for saying that," I managed, returning her embrace briefly before stepping back. As I walked to my car, I felt lighter somehow, as if years of unspoken resentment had finally begun to lift. This confrontation hadn't been what any of us expected, but perhaps it had been what we all needed. What I didn't realize then was that this day would mark not just my physical move to a new city, but the beginning of a fundamental shift in our family dynamic, one that would ultimately lead us to a healthier, more honest relationship than I ever thought possible. The drive to San Francisco gave me ample time to process the surreal confrontation at my former home. As miles of coastline passed by my window, I alternated between replaying the scene in my mind and focusing on the road ahead, both literally and metaphorically. By the time I arrived at my new corporate apartment, I was emotionally exhausted but also strangely at peace. For the first time in my adult life, I had stood my ground with my family, refused to be manipulated, and prioritized my own needs without apologizing. It felt both terrifying and liberating. My phone had remained silent throughout the journey, no calls or texts from my parents or Madison. I wasn't sure if this was a good sign or a bad one, but I decided to embrace the quiet as a chance to settle into my new space without family drama. The corporate apartment was small but modern and well-appointed, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a partial view of the bay. As I unpacked my overnight bag, the rest of my belongings would arrive with the moving truck the next day. I felt a renewed sense of excitement about this fresh start. My reverie was interrupted by a text notification. Bracing myself for more family drama, I was surprised to see it was from Ben Carson. Just wanted to let you know that your family left without further incident. We changed the locks, just in case. No hard feelings, every family has its complications. Good luck in San Francisco. His graciousness, despite the incredible imposition, touched me. I responded with profuse apologies and thanks, promising to send them a housewarming gift as a small token of appreciation for their patience. Just as I finished that text, another came through, this one from Madison. I'm at the Holiday Inn. Mom and Dad are getting a separate room. I've been thinking about everything that happened today. You were right. I shouldn't have expected you to bail me out again. I'm sorry. I stared at the message in disbelief. An apology from Madison? Without qualifications or subtle blame shifting. This was unprecedented. Before I could respond, another text followed. Also, congrats again on the promotion. You've worked really hard, and you deserve it. I've always been a little jealous of how you have your life together. The admission stunned me. Madison jealous of me? After a lifetime of being the golden child, the favorite, the one who got everything handed to her? Thank you for saying that, I replied carefully. It means a lot. And for what it's worth, I think you have qualities I've always admired too, your social confidence, your ability to connect with people. It felt strange but good to exchange genuine compliments with my sister, possibly for the first time in our adult lives. So, what's your plan now? I asked, curious if she'd found a solution to her immediate housing crisis. Dad's looking at short-term rentals in LA, she replied. And I've been thinking, maybe LA isn't the right move after all. Running from my problems in New York just to create new ones in California doesn't seem very grown-up. That's actually a really mature perspective, I texted back, genuinely impressed. Do you have other options you're considering? Maybe. Remember Aunt Carla in Chicago? She called after hearing about my job situation. She knows someone at a PR firm there who might be willing to give me a chance, despite everything. And her house has an actual guest room. Aunt Carla was my mother's sister, a no-nonsense businesswoman who had always treated Madison and me with equal affection and expectations. I could see how her influence might be good for Madison right now. That sounds promising, I encouraged. Aunt Carla would be a great mentor. She's already made it clear there are conditions, Madison replied. No financial bailouts, I pay rent for the room, and I have to see a financial counselor to get my spending under control. And you're okay with those terms? There was a longer pause before her response. I think I need those terms, to be honest. I'm almost 30, Liv. It's time I stopped depending on everyone else to rescue me. I felt a surge of something I hadn't expected, pride in my sister. Perhaps this disastrous attempted move to LA had been the wake-up call she needed. I'm proud of you for recognizing that, I texted. And I'm here to support you emotionally, I mean. You can always call me to talk. Thanks. That actually means a lot. Our conversation shifted to lighter topics after that, her asking about my new apartment, me inquiring about her interview preparation. It felt like talking to a friend rather than navigating the minefield our interactions had always been. Later that evening, I received a call from my parents. I answered with some trepidation, unsure what to expect. Olivia, my father began, his voice uncharacteristically subdued, your mother, and I have been doing a lot of thinking today. Oh, I said neutrally, waiting to see where this was going. We owe you an apology, he continued. A big one. We've never been fair to you. What your father is trying to say, my mother interjected, and I could tell from the sound quality that I was on speakerphone, is that we've finally realized how our treatment of you and Madison has affected you both negatively. We thought we were doing the right thing, my father added. Madison seemed to need more help, more guidance, more everything. And you were always so capable, so independent. We told ourselves we were just responding to your different needs, but the truth is, we created those differences. Their insight was surprisingly accurate. I'd spent years in therapy unpacking exactly this dynamic, how my parents' different expectations had shaped both Madison and me, pushing me toward hyper-independence and her toward dependency. Yes, I agreed simply. You did. We'd like to try to do better, my mother said hesitantly. Starting with being honest about our finances and treating both of you fairly. We've enabled Madison's irresponsibility, my father admitted. And we've taken your responsibility for granted. Neither was fair. I felt tears prickling at my eyes, not from hurt this time, but from the unexpected validation of having my experiences finally acknowledged. Thank you for saying that, I said softly. It means a lot to hear you recognize it. We're not perfect, and we'll probably mess up again, my mother said with a self-deprecating laugh. But we want to try to be better parents to both of you. That's all anyone can ask, I said, feeling a warmth toward them I hadn't experienced in years. Madison told us she's considering Aunt Carla's offer in Chicago instead of moving to LA, my father added. We think it might be the better option for her right now. I agree, I said, pleased they weren't pushing for the LA plan anymore. Aunt Carla won't enable her the way. I caught myself. The way we all have, I amended diplomatically. Exactly, my mother agreed. Your aunt has always seen things more clearly than we have. We talked for a while longer, making tentative plans for them to visit me in San Francisco once I was settled. By the time we hung up, I felt as though a seismic shift had occurred in our family, not a complete transformation, but the beginning of one. As I prepared for bed in my new apartment, in my new city, I reflected on the day's events. What had started as one of the most mortifying confrontations of my life had somehow catalyzed the honest conversations my family had needed for years. The irony wasn't lost on me, my parents giving Madison the keys to my former house, a house I no longer owned, had unlocked a new understanding between us all. Of course, I knew that real change wouldn't happen overnight. Years of entrenched patterns wouldn't disappear after one day of revelations. My parents might slip back into old habits. Madison might not follow through on her plans with Aunt Carla. I might revert to my resentful position as the responsible, overlooked daughter. But for the first time, I felt hopeful that we could build healthier relationships moving forward. The foundation had been laid for more honesty, more equity, and more genuine support in our family. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I felt a sense of closure on one chapter of my life and excitement for the one beginning. My new job, my new city, my new understanding with my family all represented fresh opportunities to define myself on my own terms, free from the constraints of old roles and expectations. The house keys that had triggered this whole confrontation had, in a way, unlocked something far more valuable than property. They had unlocked the possibility of authentic connection within my family. 3 months into my new life in San Francisco, I was thriving. My position as marketing director was challenging but fulfilling. My new colleagues were welcoming and professional, and I'd found a charming apartment in the Mission District with character and charm that my corporate housing had lacked. I'd even started dating again, enjoying the city's vibrant social scene. But the most surprising development wasn't professional or romantic, it was the evolving relationship with my family. Madison had indeed moved to Chicago to live with Aunt Carla. Through regular video calls, I learned that she was taking her financial counseling seriously, had secured a position at the PR firm, starting at an entry-level salary that was humbling but necessary, and was even seeing a therapist to work through her patterns of dependency and entitlement. It's hard, she admitted during one of our Sunday calls, which had become a weekly ritual. Sometimes I still wake up expecting someone to swoop in and fix everything for me. But Aunt Carla doesn't play that game. How's the job going? I asked, genuinely interested in her progress. Honestly, it's a reality check, Madison said with a rueful smile. I'm basically doing grunt work, media monitoring, drafting basic press releases, managing the calendar. But my boss says I have good instincts for what will resonate with people, and if I keep proving myself, there's room to grow. That's great, Mads, I said, using the childhood nickname I hadn't used in years. Building something from the ground up, it feels different, doesn't it? More solid. Yeah, she agreed thoughtfully. I never really earned anything before. It actually feels good to know I got this on my own merit, even if it's entry level. I get that completely, I told her. It's why I've always preferred making my own way. Madison's expression turned serious. I've been thinking a lot about that, Liv. About how different our experiences growing up were. I never realized. I mean, I knew Mom and Dad helped me more, but I didn't understand how much that hurt you. It wasn't just about the money, I explained, finding it easier to be vulnerable with this new, more self-aware version of my sister. It was about feeling like my achievements didn't matter, like no matter what I accomplished, it wasn't as important as your needs. Madison nodded, her eyes downcast. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I was so caught up in my own drama that I never stopped to think about how it affected you. We were both just playing the roles we were assigned, I said philosophically. You as the one who needed rescuing, me as the one who didn't need anything. Well, I'm trying to rewrite my role, Madison said with determination. Aunt Carla is helping. She doesn't let me get away with anything, but she's also really supportive in the right ways. She always was good at that balance, I agreed. Our parents, too, were making efforts to change. They had visited me in San Francisco the previous month, and for the first time in my memory, they had shown genuine interest in my life and accomplishments. My father had asked thoughtful questions about my job, while my mother had admired my new apartment without a single comparison to Madison's situations. Small steps, but meaningful ones. One Saturday morning in early December, I received an unexpected email notification, an EV to a housewarming party. The sender? Ben and Sarah Carson. Surprised and a little confused, I opened the invitation. It read, "You are cordially invited to a housewarming party at the home of Ben and Sarah Carson. We've completed our renovations and would love for you to see the transformation, especially since you played an unexpected role in the home's history. No gifts necessary, just your presence." Below the formal invitation was a personal note. Olivia, we know this might seem strange, but we've actually shared our House Keys drama story with friends and family many times. It's become quite the conversation piece, and we'd love for you to come if you're comfortable with it. We promise no surprise visits from your family this time. Ben and Sarah. I laughed out loud at their good-natured handling of what had been, for me, one of the most mortifying days of my life. The fact that they could see humor in it, and even wanted to include me in their celebration, spoke volumes about their graciousness. I checked my calendar. I had a business trip to LA that week anyway, and the timing would work perfectly. I RSVP'd yes, touched by their inclusion and curious to see what they'd done with my former home. The following weekend, I found myself standing on the familiar front porch, this time as an invited guest rather than an embarrassed former owner trying to prevent a breaking and entering situation. I rang the doorbell, a bottle of champagne in hand despite the no gifts stipulation. Sarah opened the door, her baby bump now prominently visible. "Olivia, you came," she exclaimed warmly, greeting me with a hug as if we were old friends rather than people connected by an awkward circumstance. "I wouldn't have missed it," I replied sincerely. "And congratulations. How far along are you now?" 6 months, she beamed, patting her belly. "A little girl." She ushered me inside, and I was immediately struck by the transformation. The house I had once owned was now unquestionably theirs. Walls had been removed to create an open-concept living area. The kitchen had been completely renovated, and the color scheme had shifted from my neutral tones to warm, vibrant hues that perfectly reflected their personalities. "Wow," I said, genuinely impressed. "You've done amazing things with the place." "Thanks. Ben's been working nights and weekends to get everything done before the baby comes," Sarah said proudly. "Come meet everyone. They're all dying to meet the star of our favorite homeowner story." As Sarah led me through the house, introducing me to their friends and family, I was surprised to find myself enjoying the retelling of the incident, as they called it. Ben had a particular talent for comedic storytelling, and his rendition of my father attempting to use the spare keys while he blocked the door had everyone in stitches, including me. And then he recounted to an enthralled audience. Olivia shows up, cool as can be, and says, "Dad, stop what you're doing right now." I swear, I've never been so glad to see anyone in my life. Everyone laughed, and I found myself joining in, able to see the humor in the situation now that time had passed. In my family's defense, I added, playing along with the storytelling, they'd spent a lifetime expecting me to solve everyone's problems. They just took it to an extreme that day. Well, your loss was definitely our gain, Sarah said kindly. We love this house, and now we have the best dinner party story ever. As the party continued, I wandered through the house, marveling at how completely it had been transformed. My former home office was now a nursery in progress, with a half-assembled crib and cheerful yellow walls adorned with woodland creatures. It's perfect for them, I thought, realizing that my sale of the house, which had so outraged my family, had actually put the property in the hands of people who would truly make it a home. The Carsons were clearly excited about starting their family here, about building memories in these rooms. My house had been an investment, a stepping stone. Theirs was a beginning. As I was admiring the nursery, my phone rang. It was Madison. "Hey Liv," she said when I answered. "How's the party?" I had mentioned the housewarming invitation during our last call, and Madison had been surprisingly supportive of my decision to attend. "It's actually really nice," I told her, stepping into the hallway for privacy. "The Carsons have done amazing things with the house, and everyone's been lovely about the whole key fiasco." "I still can't believe we did that," Madison said, her voice tinged with embarrassment. "Well, actually, I can believe I did that, but I'm surprised Mom and Dad went along with it. They were trying to help you the only way they knew how," I said, finding it easier to be generous about our parents' motivations now that patterns were changing. "Still, it was pretty epic as far as entitlement goes," Madison acknowledged. "Breaking and entering as a family bonding activity." We both laughed, the shared humor healing in a way that serious conversations alone couldn't accomplish. "Oh, I have news," Madison said, her tone shifting to excitement. "I got my first solo client at the firm. It's small, a local bakery looking to build their brand, but my boss is letting me take the lead." "Madison, that's fantastic," I exclaimed, genuinely proud of her. "Your first client that you earned entirely on your own merits." "Exactly," she agreed enthusiastically. "And get this, I've been approved for a small apartment of my own. Nothing fancy, but it's within my budget without any parental subsidies." "Look at you, adulting like a pro," I teased, but my pride was evident. "Aunt Carla must be rubbing off on you. She says I'm finally developing some backbone," Madison laughed. Coming from her, that's high praise. We chatted for a few more minutes before I returned to the party. As I rejoined the gathering, I found myself reflecting on the strange journey of the past few months. What had begun as a mortifying confrontation on a stranger's lawn had somehow catalyzed positive changes throughout my family system. Madison was developing independence and responsibility. My parents were becoming more aware of their enabling patterns and working to treat us more equitably, and I was learning that setting boundaries didn't have to mean cutting emotional ties. We were all growing, albeit in different ways. As the evening wound down, Ben tapped a spoon against his glass, calling for attention. "Sarah and I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate our home with us," he began. "Especially Olivia, who not only sold us this wonderful house, but provided us with the best housewarming story ever." Everyone turned to look at me, raising their glasses. I felt my cheeks flush, but smiled at the good-natured acknowledgement. "When we bought this house, we were just thinking about a place to start our family," Ben continued. "We never expected it would come with such an entertaining story, or that we'd gain a new friend in the process." "To unexpected beginnings," Sarah added, raising her glass of sparkling cider. "To unexpected beginnings," everyone echoed, clinking glasses. Later, as I prepared to leave, Sarah pressed a small gift bag into my hands. "Just a little something to remember us by," she said with a warm smile. Inside the bag was a keychain with a miniature house attached and an engraved plate that read, "Keys to the past, doors to the future." The thoughtful gesture brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "This is perfect," I told her, giving her a spontaneous hug. "Thank you." Driving back to my hotel, I reflected on the symmetry of the evening. The house keys that had once represented family drama and boundary violations had been transformed into a symbol of new beginnings and unexpected connections. What could have remained a humiliating family story had become something healing instead, a catalyst for growth and change. Before sharing this wild journey with you all, I wanted to ask, have you ever experienced a family betrayal that ultimately led to something positive? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this tale of family drama and unexpected growth, please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel for more real-life stories, and share with someone who might need to know that even the most dysfunctional family dynamics can change for the better. Thank you all for coming on this journey with me, and remember, sometimes the keys to happiness come in the most unexpected packages. Until next time.